Game Week 19 team selection. In this video, we're going to have a look at my lineup going into the upcoming Game Week 19, which is, of course, just 24 hours away. We're going to have a look at any potential transfers I'm making, talk about suspensions, some potential injuries in the news of FPL as well. Talk about my captaincy this week. There are a few options that we can potentially go with. And finally, we'll have a little bit of a chat about Erling Haaland, whether we should be bringing him back in Game Week 19, whether we should be waiting until Game Week 20 when he has Sheffield United at home. What is up, everyone? FPL Harry here. Welcome back to another video. 2,000 likes on the video is the aim. Subscribe if you are new around here as well. Game Week 18 review. So things were okay. I got a very small red arrow with 51 points, but I took a -4 this week. I sold Livramento and I sold Tsimikas, both of which don't look like very good options anymore, with Livramento being dropped and with Tsimikas picking up an injury, to bring in Trippier and Trent, who I definitely think are better long-term options. And I got a very small red arrow. So I went from 98k down to 102k. But it was the game week of what could have been. Just look at my bench here, right? 8 for Areola, 10 for Gabriel, 8 for Archer, and 6 for Charlie Taylor. My bench, every single one of them returned 32 points sitting on my bench. Basically, every decision I made in terms of benching this week has gone wrong. I should have started all of them. In terms of my starting 11, captaincy blank. Palmer didn't score when Sterling could have squared it to him. Trent Alexander-Arnold hitting the bar, but I'm still pretty pleased with my squad. I don't feel like this game week went my way. Of course, I did have Solanke, so that was, again, one of the shining lights in my team this game week. Again, we're about halfway through the season now. Sitting at about 100k is perfectly fine. I've had seasons where I've been lower. I've had seasons where I've definitely been higher, but this is in around where I want to be after this stage in the season. Let me know how you got on this week, but also, are you sitting where you want to be? Are you pleased with how the season is going so far? Half the season gone. We, of course, have the second half of the season, which is where we see double game weeks and blank game weeks, where it's easier to get big rank games and, in theory, big rank losses as well. But with a bit of planning, hopefully, we get a good half to this season. So actually what we're going to do is move straight into my lineup for next week to start with. In goal, we're going to go with Dubravka. Nottingham Forest at home, but it is the early kickoff in Game Week 19. But my other keeper is Areola, and he is going away to Arsenal, so I'm not going to start him. It is good to see, of course, that Areola has come back into that West Ham team. So at least in the next few weeks, when Dubravka's fixtures get a little bit more difficult, I'm fine to start Areola, who has some decent fixtures in those weeks. Moving into defence again. So I've got Cole Palmer, and I had a benching decision to make in terms of my defence, where I could only start 3 of these 4. But with Cole Palmer being suspended for his 5th yellow card, he of course drops to the bench, and then I start the 4 defenders that I've got. So Pedro Porro away at Brighton, happy enough with him. They didn't look amazing against Everton, and Christian Romero looks like he's going to be out with an injury. We haven't had that confirmed, but that's not great news for him. But it is still an okay enough fixture, and he is great going forward, and he's on set pieces as well. Similar can be said about Trent and about Trippier as well. Both of them with good fixtures this week. Both of them on a lot of set pieces. So I'm pretty happy that I've got them. And then, of course, I benched Gabriel this week for his probably 1 goal this season. But still a nice run of fixtures coming up over the next few weeks. West Ham at home this week as well. I'm still happy to start him in that one. Moving into midfield, again, as I said, Cole Palmer is suspended, so he just dropped to my bench. We have Son, we have Gordon, we have Salah, and we have Saka. Gordon tends to be better at home, so fingers crossed for something from it in here. Saka has been very disappointing for me. Yes, in terms of footballing ability, he's looked pretty good in the games, but from an FPL point of view, he hasn't looked really like he's creating the chances and getting in goal-scoring opportunities that you want him to from an FPL point of view. So with Salah and Son going away to the African Cup of Nations and the Asia Cup, I'm not going to go selling him, especially with the Arsenal fixtures over the next few weeks. But when Salah and Son come back, I definitely think that Saka is one of the players I could use to potentially make way. When you look at someone like Jared Bowen with 11 goals this season, I don't own him. Just feels like I don't need to force a 9 million Saka into my team. Up front, then, we have, of course, Ollie Watkins, and we have hat-trick hero Dominic Solanke. Watkins' returns haven't been that great over the past few weeks, but I'm still pretty happy that I've got him in my team, and I don't plan on him going here anywhere. The only thing that I have an issue this week actually is I have Cameron Archer. I wasn't planning on playing him until Cole Palmer picked up that suspension, and now I wonder if I should play him over playing the back four that I've got in my team. It could be Pedro Porro, it could be Gabriel. In theory, it could be Ollie Watkins going away to Manchester United with Archer having Luton at home. That is the only decision I've got to really make this week. I don't plan on making a transfer. I plan on rolling my transfer going into game week 20, where I'll probably consider buying Erling Haaland back. We'll discuss that in a little bit more detail in just a moment. But I do have to decide on whether Cameron Archer should be in my starting 11, whether it's Porro, Gabriel or Watkins that drops out. Again, let me know which of those you would drop, if you would drop any, or you would keep Archer on the bench. In terms of captaincy, there are a few options that I quite like. Trippier and Trent would be great differentials, but I don't really ever captain a defender. It's not really something I love doing because a clean sheet wipeout can come from anywhere on the pitch, and those players could have a great game, but someone else makes a mistake. So it falls on Dominic Solanke at home to Fulham, Son away at Brighton, a team who love to concede goals, and then Salah away at Burnley. If we knew that Richarlison was going to be out for Spurs, it doesn't sound like he's going to be, but if we knew he was going to be out, then Son might play up front, which would make him a really nice option. But until we know that, I do think that I don't trust Solanke for captaincy enough at the moment. That Mo Salah away at Burnley is going to get my captaincy armband for game week 19. Now, one of the questions I'm getting most at the moment after my transfers for Trippier and Trent last week is, well, then how do you plan on getting Haaland back if I've spent the Haaland money? Just before we do that, it's worth discussing whether I think Haaland is going to be available for game week 19. So we saw that he posted this picture on Instagram or on Twitter of this sort of hourglass loading emoji of him training without any shoes on. Apparently today, on the 24th of December, he hasn't been involved in full Manchester City training yet. And we're not going to get a press conference for Manchester City before that Everton game because managers don't speak, or they rarely speak, on Christmas Day, the 25th in the UK. They normally have a day off or they just do training. There's not really press conferences that day. So we're unlikely to get a proper update on Erling Haaland, given that they also don't play on the day of the deadline. They play the day after. Again, I just don't feel like we're going to get an update. And I'm really not certain that he's going to start. Some of you might disagree and think he's going to start. And if you own him, I would definitely start him. But for me, I can't buy him unless it's for a -4 this week. And I'm not certain that he's going to start. So for me, it doesn't really make sense to go and buy him this week, which is part of the reason I also want to make sure I roll my transfer this week, because I can then get him back with 2 free transfers going into game week 20 when he has Sheffield United at home, if I think he's going to be available for that week. If I don't think he's going to be back that week, I'll probably just make one transfer and just keep waiting and rolling the second transfer until I need to go and buy Erling Haaland back. The planned transfers initially were Salah down and sell Dom Solanke all the way up to Erling Haaland, and it would probably be Jared Bowen that would buy in place of Mo Salah. However, with the postponement to the Bournemouth-Luton game, it's likely that that double game week will come at a similar time that the Manchester City-Brentford one comes, which is still predicted to be up to and maybe including game week 23, 24, 25. And if that's going to happen, I don't really want to go selling Dominic Solanke in my team. So then I look at another route, and I could upgrade all the way from Cameron Archer all the way up to Erling Haaland. The only issue with doing that is I don't actually have the exact money to go and buy Jared Bowen. I would have to go for a little bit of a cheap option in probably buying Richarlison. So when I want to go and buy Erling Haaland back, Salah is almost guaranteed to go. Downgrade him while he's away for the African Cup of Nations, and either upgrade Dominic Solanke to him or probably Cameron Archer, and I'll keep Dominic Solanke, hoping that Bournemouth get that double game week soon. So a little bit of just a longer term quick view of what this means. I've already spoken about it a little bit. I plan on rolling my transfer this week. It's just whether I start Cameron Archer over anyone in my defence this week. I'm pretty sure I'll start Ollie Watkins against that Manchester United team. Going into game week 20, I'll have 2 free transfers. I'm pretty sure Salah will go for me next week with Newcastle at home, even if Haaland is not back, just because I have no other move I'd want to make in my team. I basically am happy with my defence now. Don't need to touch that for the next few weeks. I only need to touch my forward line if Haaland's back. So of course, if Haaland is going to be back, then as we said, Salah and Archer will both go. I'll bring in Erling Haaland, and then I will go and bring in Richarlison in that midfield spot as well. And that leaves me basically no money in the bank, and that sets me up pretty well for game week 20. Going into game week 21 with this team, I'd have a choice of what to do with Son. Because this team gives me a front 8 now, in theory, I don't need Son. I could just, in theory, bench him in that week, play a 3-4-3, something like that, and just leave Son on my bench until he comes back from the Asia Cup, and I don't have to worry about Salah and Son coming back, and I only have to think about buying Salah back. Could be the better move. We can discuss that again closest to game week 21. In game week 20, if, for example, though, Haaland is not going to be back, I still have to make a transfer. Salah is still likely the player that will go because I don't want to sell Son before Bournemouth, and in theory, Salah has the most difficult game against Newcastle. At home to Newcastle, though, Newcastle away from home have been pretty poor so far this season, so I don't massively want to do that, but I still think it's the better long-term move. So Richarlison would come in probably, or it could be Jared Bowen. I'd have to make the call on one of them. Of course, if I go Bowen, it does make moving for Erling Haaland in game week 21 still a little bit more difficult. So game week 20 would still plan on being Richarlison in, given that we expect him to be available for that game. Of course, he did pick up a slight knock in game week 18, but Ange Postecoglou has said it's just a back issue. He's been fine. He's can play with it. So that's the plan over the next few weeks. Game week 19 roll my transfer. Game week 20, 21 are basically just going to be making room, freeing up money again to buy back Erling Haaland and selling Salah and maybe Son when they go away to the international tournament. So that is my team for this week. A little bit boring, maybe with a roll transfer. I feel like I haven't rolled a transfer in a while, so it feels good to go and get 2 in the bank this week. Let me know if you have any questions about your team in the comment section down below. Thank you all so much for watching. Of course, we'll be back again tomorrow with a 2-hour deadline stream. So make sure you're subscribed. Turn on that notification bell as well so you get a reminder for that stream. Thank you all so much for watching. Like and subscribe before you go, and I'll be back again very soon.